Hello, my name is Russell Jackson, PhD student at Alabama A&M University in the social work department. And today I will be talking to you about my dissertation topic, religious experiences and psychological well-being among Black gay men aged 30 to 50. The Black church has been a central point to African American life for generations, offering leadership, social cohesion, moral guidance, and emotional support. For many families, it has been a refuge during racial oppression and a place of community organizing and mutual aid. At the same time, many Black-led congregations continue to teach conservative views about gender and sexuality. For Black men, and for the purpose of this study, for gay Black men, the definition is Black men who identify as gay and have intimate relationships with other men. This treatment is painful, and it causes tension. It can be viewed as both culture belonging and then also messages that label and condemn same-sex attraction. This dual role both gives a sense of shelter and potential harm, which is the practical problem motivating this research. I want to use a phenomenological approach. I want to use the lived experiences of Black gay men who have been involved with Black faith, specifically the Black church, and how the church influences their sense of self, their mental health, and the ways that they use religion to cope. I focus on midlife men, roughly ages 30 to 50, because this life stages brings particular obligations and histories. Men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s often carry long relationships with congregations, have families and career responsibilities, and have lived through important social shifts. The example is the change in gay rights, which are now more visible, and legal rights. That shapes how they navigate or navigated coming out, relationships, and faith. Studying this age window helps us both see shared patterns and generational differences in how faith and identity are negotiated. This study matters because there is a scholarly gap, much existing research on religion and sexual minority health groups age broadly or focus on youth, and few studies center midlife Black gay men or bring gendered theory and religious coping together to explain how faith and masculinity jointly shape well-being. Second, there's a practical gap. Clinicians, counselors, and faith leaders often lack cultural grounded guidance to help men who feel both spiritually rooted and spiritually hurt. Hearing men's stories about sermons, congregational reactions, private prayer, and identity work can produce actionable recommendations for pastoral care and mental health outreach. there is a third problem, which is social justice. Understanding how church climate, family support, and discrimination affect mental health can inform advocacy and program design to reduce stigma and increase access to culturally competent care. This research aims to produce knowledge that helps scholars, therapists, clergy, and community organizers support dignity, resilience, and inclusion. The three research questions that I am posing: how do Black gay men in midlife describe the Black church's influence on their self-esteem? How do they make sense of the church's influence on their mental health and emotional well-being? And then how do they experience and interpret religious coping practices when faced with identity related stress in religious contexts? I will be looking at doing 12 to 15 Black gay men interviews, which will last roughly 60 to 90 minutes. The theories that I chose were critical masculinity theory, which focused on how society teaches and police being a man, toughness, emotional restraint, heterosexuality, provider roles, and how institutions like churches enforce these ideals. For Black men, historical pressures and the role of the church often reinforce particular masculine ideals that were about survival and dignity under oppression. For Black gay men, those same ideals can create gender role strain, pressure to hide sexual identity, to present as straight, to avoid emotional help. In practical terms, critical masculinity theory informs interview prompts like, what did being a man mean in your church or family? And it drives coding categories like masculinity. Religious coping theory explains how people use faith to handle stress as well as their areas of coping. This area uses negative religious coping as well as positive. This theory matters because the same religious practices can be healing for some and harmful for others, depending on the context. Combining these two theories, masculinity norms, which shape social field in which coping occurs, and those coping choices translate social pressure into psychological outcomes. Putting these pieces together, church and family shape masculine expectations. These expectations influence identity negotiation and the kind of religious coping men use. Coping strategies, positive or negative, affect self-esteem. Self-esteem then mediates mental health outcomes. and mediators, church climate, family support, discrimination, change how strong each link is. In my literary review, the gaps were too fewer studies focused on specifically on midlife gay men. It was limited integration of masculinity theory with religious coping, rare examinations on self-esteem, mental health, and religious coping. Thank you for listening to my dissertation topic. Thank you.